Okay. Look
Okay.
at that. Official. Oh, I like that, dude. That's very European of you. Or 1930s, you know. Don't know which is that.
Quite a nice hat.
It's a fedora, right? I don't know.
All right, let's roll.
Let's rock and roll it.
He's coming. Mariano's coming from the Oval Office in Argentina again. I love it.
Hello, everyone.
What up, everybody?
Afternoon.
Hola. Is it afternoon? Depends on where you're coming from.
Yeah. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're joining us from the world.
In case I don't see you.
Yeah.
It's from the Truman Show. No.
Mariano, are those pictures of your family behind you?
Yeah, unfortunately, these are the bad side of the family on my left.
I dig.
But they're watching me. They're supervising me.
What
you know, guys,
what makes them bad?
Yeah.
Well, bad business in the past with I don't know, international drug lords and other stuff.
Oh, you got some connections there, huh?
Yeah. That's how you get power, right? How do you think I'm in the Oval Office?
So that's how you're keeping the bread on the table in Buenos Aires. Is that right?
Yeah.
You get to the front of the line.
I dig. Well, guys, for this being a bear market, you wouldn't think so because of how much stuff's been going on in crypto lately for the last week. So lots of stuff for us to unpack, lots of stuff for us to dig into. Coinbase coming out with a new chain, right? They're actually coming out with their own chain, which I don't know if we nevertheless saw that coming, but they are, and it's launching this week. And there's already been a bunch of rug pulls and all that kind of stuff. So why don't we unpack that for a bit? So what are your guys' thoughts on this whole, base layer 2, I believe, that's being launched this week? Don't all go at the same time.
Another chain. I'm so excited. I don't know. I don't actually know what the main narrative is for the chain. Is it just like another DeFi chain, or is it a place to trade, or does anyone know anything about what this chain is for?
It's essentially they just revealed, and it's I think it's another intent of all these companies that are wanting to deploy into the new technologies such as CK Sync and newer fad words essentially. But from what I read is that they are actually encouraging and giving a lot of incentives for people to do so. So you have a lot of quests that you could do, and you can earn, I think, up to $50 worth of crypto if you decide to perform these things. So I think it shows Coinbase really innovating where I thought it was unlikely that they were going to innovate, such as creating their own like chain. But I think it's a positive thing. It's not that big of a deal, but I like it. They do have some deals from what I saw that since they are more like institutional players in the market, they have Coca-Cola signed up, I think, and others to be a part of their chain.
So there's just a page where they have the quests, or
I haven't checked it, but I think it's inside Coinbase. If you perform certain actions, to learn about the chain or actually do things inside that chain, you get rewarded. Which, by the way, it's something that a lot of these platforms have been doing for a long time. For example, CoinMarketCap also has these quests where if you learn about crypto and you do some things, you get a little bit of money, I think with CoinMarketCap it's like an NFT, but with Coinbase it was crypto all along. The same with Binance and other ones.
Okay, so sort of like a rehashing of what they did 2 or 3 years ago, where you could watch a bunch of educational videos, answer a few questions, and then get some airdrops of some random coins. So it's similar to that, but on chain.
I think the important thing is what you said is on chain, Michael. Obviously Coinbase has the most amount of users in crypto, as far as, user database. To be able, and some, part of our biggest I should say, criticisms of someone who calls himself a crypto investor is they just hold their tokens on a centralized exchange. Well, that does not reflect the ethos of the space, right? So the fact that Coinbase is coming out with their own chain that is going to incentivize their own users to go on chain and develop a new skill set to actually become a legitimate, crypto investor or token holder, I love. I think it's great. Whether the chain actually succeeds or not, whether the chain actually survives, I like the fact that they're now creating an opportunity for people to really understand what is it like to be on chain. What is it like to self-custody your assets? What is it like to use a MetaMask wallet? In this case, their Web3 Coinbase wallet. But I love the fact that they're doing it. I don't know if it'll be successful. I think there will be a gold rush to a bunch of rug pulls and a bunch of maybe they'll be able to attract a large amount of TVL. Perhaps they will. That's not necessarily the purpose. I think what we're discussing. However, and we're not necessarily disclosing. We're not saying, hey, this is not financial advice. Not suggesting to actually go, bridge all your ETH over to Base. But I think it's actually a good experiment. Take a few shekels and give it a try and play around with it.
Yeah, I bridged 0.25 ETH over, and but I have no confidence in any of the projects there. It's like it all says on the deck screener like up 20,000%, and I'm like, oh, okay. And there's a ton of liquidity. So what you said, Dominic, it's really great that there's a ton of people being onboarded into Web3 in a meaningful way. I also heard Amazon has an NFT that they're dropping through their game, and that's going to onboard a ton of people into Web3. So I think in a similar way, that's really exciting. But yeah, I think once the chain, you can bridge to the chain, but there's no way to get the money off the chain right now. But they go live. They go live on the 9th, I hear, and that's when there should be bridges available to go back. So I expect there to be a ton more liquidity pumping in, but it totally could go the other way after the 9th.
Okay, so let's take a step back and look at these exchanges offering their own tokens. You look at Binance. Binance has their own chain. Huobi has their own chain, right? Pretty much there is the Leo token. All these exchanges, they have their own chain. Why is that? There are a couple of reasons. One is that exchanges, they are in a game they're in the liquidity game. The exchange with the most amount of liquidity wins all the time, right? So the exchange with the deepest liquidity would have the best prices. The exchange with the widest coverage would have the best tokens available. So the exchange with the deepest liquidity wins. In terms of incentivizing users, having these exchange tokens are super interesting, because now the exchanges can offer various incentives for being able to trade on their platform. And that's what Binance has done. And they have the burn mechanism where they take the revenue generated from the exchange trading. It used to be that. Now they've changed it more from the perspective of all the gas fees that are being generated, and they want to give it back to the users, right? So everyone has an incentive to trade on the exchange and to be able to hold on to these tokens, because depending upon which exchange, like Binance, you can stake a certain number of tokens, the Binance token, to be able to get some discount on the fee. Similarly, you can have similar experience in Huobi and other exchanges. So Binance is, Coinbase is in the alignment with other centralized exchanges to be able to offer these offer a chain. It's an L2 chain. It's based on optimism, optimistic rollup. And at the same time, they said that there will not be a base token, right? So they have the technology, but they don't have the token incentive to be able to reward users, which is an interesting play. Most likely because of the regulatory concerns. They don't know if there is a base token, what the regulatory concerns will be. There might be a future airdrop if people are using the base token and they figure out the legal side of it. I highly doubt that that's going to happen. And but what it allows is it allows them to take a look at projects that are launching and they can get some early exposure to projects that are launching, because any of the projects that are successful can then be moved on to the Binance exchange directly. We saw what happened with the bots, right? Like the Unibots is one of the tokens that we talked about in one of the previous episodes, up 200x in the last 30 days, right? Like 200 times your investment. If you put $1,000, you're going to have $200,000 in just 30 days. That is a huge incentive, and having this own chain allows Coinbase to be able to monitor the new tokens that are launching.
You mentioned the Binance, but I know that you were referring to Coinbase, right? You were referring to Coinbase chain or exchange, right, VJ?
Yes, I did get confused there between. I did mean Coinbase when I said Binance. So, but the summary is that every exchange has their own chain and the native token. So Coinbase is also in alignment with that, and the new base chain is Coinbase's version of their own Ethereum compatible chain that gives them early view into projects that are launching on the platform.
Yeah, and again, go ahead. What were you going to say, Mariano?
Oh no, it's jumping to a different topic that it's essentially about different chains. But finish your
yeah.
thought.
No, what I was just going to say, I was kind of going to reinforce your comments a little bit, VJ, because I think it's a net positive that Coinbase is kind of doubling down a little bit. They're showing their support for the actual non-custodial space, the non-custodial, part of the crypto market. So, excuse me, I really enjoy that. I like that they're doing that. Now, is it necessarily going to attract the EMI capital? Maybe not at the moment. I'd like to see it kind of, create a little bit more of a groundswell. But the fact that they're actually doing it, they're doing it now when, many people are not paying attention to the space, unfortunately, right now, I think is a great thing. And I mean, they did do it, prior to their earnings call. So, or at least announced it that it's getting launched this week. But there's obviously some reasoning for that. I think they were trying to probably, have a positive impact on their own earnings. Not going to begrudge them for that. I think it's a great thing. In sum, I think it's awesome that they're doing it. So, hey. Now, nice. do we need more chains? To Michael's point, another chain, right? So there is a lot. Like we do have far more block space than we have actual utility for it. But I guess it's
yeah. And on these chain wars, I don't know if you guys have seen this essentially. So Polygon, which is the 11th largest coin in the world, right? Very, very important, very solid project. They are actually developing their own zero knowledge technology, right? And they have accused Matter Labs that they are developing another ZK technology chain to steal parts of their code and publish it publicly. So that's insane. And Matter Labs essentially denied this, but it's Polygon who we're talking about. So why would they accuse someone that is not doing something like that? What I'm trying to say is that Polygon is a very serious chain, and they would not have done something like this if it wasn't a real suspicion on being true. And I think this raises the question of, well, how actually secure are all these networks that are popping up now? Because if we see that a really serious organization like Matter Labs is being accused of stealing code, well, that raises a question.
Yeah, go ahead, go for it, Michael.
I was going to ask, how is that different from projects that are constantly forking other projects in the past?
Well, because I think it's different because it's a chain essentially now. I mean, you can fork whatever project you want, and I don't think it fundamentally changes anything. But I do think if you are essentially forking a chain and putting your name, it's a different discussion because you're actually stealing the work of someone.
I think though, maybe I'm completely wrong about this, but okay, you can fork it and you can take their exact technology, but the value in, let's say, Ethereum right now isn't the technology necessarily, it's their community. It's the size of the community. It's the size, it's that they've onboarded that many, X million users, right? For some no-name company to come in and say, well, we just forked your technology and made a, slightly different, change to the patent or the change to the code. Okay, well, great. Then do whatever you can to attract users, right? So you essentially just replicated an existing technology. Why wouldn't I just go use Ethereum? Why would I use, your forked version where there's 10 users on it?
I think the discussion was more along the lines that they didn't like attribute the code to the original like developer that wrote it, because in crypto like everything is aimed to be open source, right? Because you always verify and don't trust. And the Polygon like code was actually open source, right? And that's how they might be able to have copied it, or so they claim. But what they were essentially stating is that, hey, if you're gonna copy it, at least like attribute it to the original like designer, developer, right? Which is what you normally do. And Matter Labs will never do that, because like how is it possible that they're gonna accept that they copied code from another CK network, right? I think that was more of the discussion of what was happening.
Got it.
Hey, even if you watch for what is happening with optimism, so Base is a fork of optimism, and Coinbase has been working with the optimism, I think it's called Optimism Collective, for over a year now around developing the different technologies. I think it's EIP 4844, that's the proto-dank sharding, which can reduce the fee by 10 to maybe 100x the fee of what is there right now. So they've been working on that, and in the future, do see multiple chains. We know the blockchain trilemma, right? To be able to have decentralization, security, and speed. So all three, right? If you get two, the third one is going to be more difficult, and people have been working on it. It's an unsolved problem. You're going to have like multiple roll-up chains. And that's one way we can achieve scalability and decentralization without giving up some of the other characteristics. And that's where chains that are based off of optimism comes in. If anything, it's more bullish for optimism with the launch of the Base chain.
Just curious, VJ, how that relates to what Mariano was talking about.
Two separate things. I just went back to the point that Michael was making earlier, and whether people accuse, I am not much familiar with what happened there. I don't know what is what is stealing versus what is forking and building on. So don't have much to contribute there.
Okay, just
it almost seems like the Matter Labs thing was like an oversight by like a developer who just wasn't thinking about it, and Matter Labs just didn't catch it, and now everyone's making like a big deal out of it, which ultimately just brings more attention to the project. So that's like, good.
Yeah, I mean, same. I don't know as if I necessarily have any crazy insight to that. I mean, with it being open source, Mariano. Now, I think that there should be some attribution of acknowledging the original source code and who the developer was. But I don't know if there was anything necessarily nefarious going on there. But you're probably a little bit more closer to that, as your dev skills are far greater than mine. So I'll yield to your expertise on that one.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible. I think it's just a question of attribution of the original owner rather maybe than a security issue. But maybe just that.
Sure. Well, it wouldn't be a full week in crypto without a big $61 million hack in one of the main DeFi protocols.
This week has been heavy. Lots of things.
It's been a wild week, guys. It's been super, super wild. I mean, hey, don't we always say that this space isn't for the faint of heart? Well, a week like this week will justify that. So Curve Finance which is, you know, a DeFi building block. They're enormous, one of the largest stablecoin exchanges out there. And so they were victims of a $61 million hack by a hacker. And then we just found out this morning that that hacker is largely restored most of those funds, or returned most of those funds. Now, I don't know if that's got anything to do with the fact that maybe, just maybe, a 10% reward was sent out, like, or issued 2 or 3 days ago. So perhaps they're looking for the reward, and they can true up the 61 million that they took. So find it very, very interesting. Curves up on the news, obviously. Convex, Arbitra, or what is it? Alchemex. Alchemex is up on the news. So yeah, what do you guys say about all this?
Guy sounds like a white hat hacker, just trying to make a name for himself.
Yeah.
I don't know about white hat hacker. Out of the 61 million, I think only like 8 million or so has been returned so far, right? It's at 15%. So, you know, white hat would have maybe just claimed the price, and still 85% of the remaining amount, which is what, close to about $50 million. It's still out there. So maybe you know, returns for the bounty. However, the bounty is definitely not going to be 50 million.
Maybe the founder Igorov, you know, can secure those funds to true up his position a little bit, right? Because I know he's got a significant position that has been at risk of getting liquidated. There's even more news about that, and so I think he put in like another, goodness, what was it, $4 million? No, 42 million of his curve stash. Yeah, so yeah, he's got a $168 million curve loan, currently. So that could get pretty dicey if that thing gets is at, you know, risk, or even gets liquidated. So that would have, I would suspect, some contagion effect inside the DeFi space. For sure.
Yeah, it's great news that he's giving back some of the money, and that, you know, price went up as a result of that. But I don't think Curve's out of the woods yet. So we'll see what happens.
I agree. Yeah. What do you guys think? Vijay, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, like there are so many different ways for being able to play this game. And what is that movie with John Travolta where he something Pelham, where he crashes a train, but
The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3 or something like that.
Oh yeah, something like that, right? Where they hijack it, but they the main way that he makes a demand, but the main way he makes the money is they have a put option, and that's how they're going to make the money. So with the widespread things around DeFi, you know, who knows, right? Maybe there is some other way of being able to short it that happen off exchanges. You know, we'll have to wait for all the forensic accounting and others who have been looking into it to see if there were ways of being able to make money. And even if the developers returns the remaining 50 million, there could have been ways of being able to play it.
That's interesting. Yes, that would be interesting if I'm sure there's some arbitrageurs that are out there seeking that opportunity to mass short that position. So would not be surprised by that in the least. There's actually another show, not to discuss our Hollywood, you know, what we like as far as shows, but there's a new show on Apple that's called Hijack. That's pretty much the same storyline as that, BJ. It's like they hijack an airplane or a jetliner from, like, what was it, Dubai to London or something like that, and then, you know, their objective is to actually short the market or short those stocks that are affected. So same kind of thing. Is that going to occur here in the space in DeFi? I wouldn't put it past some people. So anyways, yeah. So we have also another big news as it relates to Hex and Richard Hart. So has anybody done any research on that and unpacked that? Mariano, have you looked into that?
Not much, unfortunately, but I still think I need to read more about it.
Okay, gotcha. Michael?
Yeah, I think I decided a long time ago that Richard Hart sounds a little bit too much like a scammer, acts a little bit too much like a scammer, and so I generally don't keep tabs on him. But I think it's really funny that there's a documentary coming out all about Richard Hart and his rise to success, and maybe they'll tag on the fall as well.
Someone's actually doing a documentary on that guy.
Oh yeah, you guys should see the trailer. It's
He's
really
probably
funny.
self-producing it. I guarantee he's self-producing it.
I would not be surprised. Yeah.
Yeah. VJ, what about you? What do you know about this whole thing?
Yeah, so the SEC has a very detailed complaint, and if you look at it, it's pretty interesting, right? The SEC they understand what staking means, right? Like now with Hex. So just a little bit background on Hex. Hex claimed to be a certificate of deposit, which got really popular during the last bull run, and there were ads all over London. They took ads on taxi cabs in London and buses, and the city was plastered with the various ads for claiming that it's doing almost close to 1,000% return or something like that, insane, which clearly makes it into an investment product and a potential security. But besides that, the SEC was very surgical in the use of the terminologies. They understand what is staking, right, and what is staking, like what Ethereum does for providing security to the network, and what staking for projects like Hex, the functionality that they enable. It's essentially locking it into a smart contract. What they have done is that they had an initial amount of investment that they raised, close to, I think, 30 million or so, but they recycled that amount. They took that money and then they moved it around into multiple exchanges and got it back as investment. So it looked like Hex got this huge amount of investment, whereas it's just recycled money coming over and over again. All of the exchanges in the space knew about it. You had none of the centralized exchanges, right? Even Binance and Huobi and other exchanges, which will list pretty much any token and any coin to be able to make the fee, they all avoided it. The only way you can trade it was on Uniswap. And you had almost a cult-like following around Hex. And it was very difficult to convince people about the project and how the project doesn't have any technical merit and it is a scam with token distribution, etc. It's a good study on people's psychology, because once people mind is taken over by this, I would say, like cult mentality thinking, then the thinking part of our brain shuts down and we don't even look at the project in reality. And a lot of people lost their money in the process. So I do think that Hex project should be shut down. It is violated plenty of laws, everything from issuing security, calling themselves as a certificate of deposit, and being able to swindle investors out of money. So it's a project that needs to die just from.
Okay, we lost you.
Hello?
Yeah, we lost you a little bit there. Must be that Puerto Rican internet. It's fine.
Yeah.
But so they effectively they rehypothecated the funds then at 30 million over and over and over and over and over again, right? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, they just kept recycling the funds. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's the oldest trick in the book. Right?
Yeah.
So
and Richard Hart is this larger than life personality, going and buying diamonds and all the other things to be, and Rolex watches, and
I think he had the most expensive diamond in the world or something.
Yeah, I have a rule of thumb, and that is that anytime I see anybody essentially flaunting what looks like wealth, I run and not walk the other way, right? So the instant that I saw this guy on his YouTube channel or whatever, and he's literally got like Rolex watches behind him rotating, that was the sign for me. I'm like, and the way you okay. So a lot of people like to wear designer stuff. That's cool. No big deal. But like, if you're using that as your shtick of the reason why people should, hey, look at this. Here's a symbol of wealth, and there's the Rolex watches and all this stuff kind of going on. It doesn't make sense to me. And then the tokenomics didn't make sense even more. So, that's generally not a recipe for success. So I wasn't on the hex train or the pulse train or whatever it is at any point of the train going from
the train wreck.
Yeah. So yeah, indeed. Total absolute train wreck. So not hopefully we can see this thing finally come to an end. Hopefully this will be, and I don't want to wish anybody's demise, but I mean, if the guy's out there actually being a crook and a scammer, he needs to pay the penance of it, just like SBF, just like everybody else. So hopefully these relics of this past bull market that were tourists that came here and they were grifters and they took people's money and without adding any sort of value to the marketplace, they're gone and they're made an example of. That's what we need the SEC for. We don't need the SEC coming in and creating onerous restrictions on people who are building this technology. We need the SEC to come in and actually look at the people who are actually, grifting on everybody else and make an example out of them. So that's
amazing. It took this long.
Yeah.
For it to happen. So I definitely welcome the news for sure.
Totally. So there's also another project, well, not a project, but a project that we follow that we're, kind of fans of, I would say, is GMX. GMX is a large, decentralized perp exchange on the Arbitrum network. Big fans of Arbitrum network. And so they were responsible for bringing a lot of TVL to that chain in the early days and still up until have sustained that to a large degree. So they came out with their second version of their platform, their trading desk, I think last week, or maybe it's even launching this week. I can't remember. I think it's actually already launched, but what they've done is now instead of offering I think they were restricted to like 2 or 3 tokens. I want to say Bitcoin and Ethereum, maybe one more. But now you can actually trade Dogecoin. Some of the other ones are actually, I think Solana. You might even be able to, Solana, XRP, Litecoin. You can trade Doge. You can be a liquidity provider on that chain. So the liquidity provisions are like those are pretty good incentives at the moment, like right around 47%. So if you're out there, you're looking for liquidity, maybe willing to take a little bit of a risk on that. Obviously, the impermanent loss is something you want to consider if you're a liquidity provider. If it's your first time doing that, I probably wouldn't do it on this one. But if you've got some experience in providing liquidity, this could be a good opportunity for you. But yeah, it's a great version upgrade to the GMX platform that I think is going to be great for the next bull run when liquidity comes back and the volume comes back. Right now, I think it's a little bit lower than what we're accustomed to or used to. But it's just another iteration, another example of companies that are continuing to build, right? And GMX, I think, is a top 100 token. So seeing, they're not going anywhere. They're still shipping product. They're still doing what they should be doing and innovating. And so creating more opportunities to attract liquidity, I think, is a great thing. You guys have any comments on that?
GMX,
baby. Right. Oh, love that stuff. So, all right. Well, if nobody's got any comments on that, I know, Mariano, there was a little bit of news down south in your neck of the woods. Ripio launched a US dollar pegged. I don't know if it's backed, but I think it's US dollar pegged stablecoin in South America. So since you're our boots on the ground and our fedora wearing guy in the Oval Office down there, figured I'd get your perspective on that.
So essentially, Ripio it's the largest exchange in Argentina and in certain countries of Latin America. It's not the largest in Latin America, but it's among the pretty big ones. And they, in the past, they launched their own token. They had something called the Ripio Credit Network, and they did an ICO, and they got a lot of money that essentially subsidizes its bad business because they are not a very good exchange. They lose money every year, I think, and they essentially, that's what's happening. And the news are that they are launching their own stablecoin, which is going to be an assets-backed stablecoin that the assets will be held in the United States, actually. And it's really not that a big deal. It's not going to be like a huge volume of stable coins that they have created that are going to in circulation, but it will be like a niche product that they will developed themselves to include on their own like debit card system. So you can load your debit card the same way that there are 10 million debit cards out there that you can load with crypto, or you can have the Ripio debit card that you can buy their own stablecoin and you can use it there, for example. But I am not sure on which chain they're actually deploying it. But then again, it's not really that important because their first use case that they thought about it was just to have a reserve currency for their debit card for the users.
So let me ask you this: from your perspective and what's going on in Argentina with obviously the inflation, and like how many people, like how many of your peers that you know are actually utilizing blockchain or cryptocurrency, right?
So
yeah, go for it.
I would have said that up to 4 months ago, 90% of the people that I knew were buying stable coins, specifically USDC or USDT, to save themselves from inflation. Now, they didn't use blockchain. They were just using a couple of fintech apps that got very, very popular that allowed them to deposit pesos, which is our local worthless currency, and retrieve USDC or USDT. But they would never use USDC or USDT to actually transact with that. What they would do is just they would sell it for dollars, right? And the reason why that was happening is that well, first of all, we have a lot of inflation in Argentina. We are now at 160 something percent per year. And yeah, it's actually hyperinflation according to like the UN of like.
Well, yeah, it was just 50% like 6 months ago, right?
No, I mean it was a little bit more than that, but we are actually now in hyperinflation. So it's survival thinking, right? Because think that per month you have more than 10% of inflation. So if you have pesos, and by the end of the next month, they're going to be worth 10% less. So a lot of people were buying these USDC or USDT stablecoins, then selling them for dollars, because actually buying dollars with pesos is illegal. It's a regulated market by the government, a very draconian regulation. That's what real regulation looks like. And you can't buy like dollars with pesos. You can't. You just can't. It's illegal. Most of the people do it anyway. And it's so standardized in society that it's like it feels like it's not a crime, but it is.
So that's effectively currency control. So they've enacted currency controls.
Yeah, but so you could like you, Dominic, me, if you have your salary, maybe you could do this illegal transaction over the market, over the counter. Sorry, but for enterprises, or if you have such as a small company, or you have like a store that it's like you sell something on the street, all the money that enters your bank account, you just really can't withdraw it all in cash and go to buy dollars like that, right? Because people will ask questions. So these USDC and USDT solutions were amazing because you could do all this legally on the banking system and save yourself from inflation. But around 4 or 5 months ago, there was a new regulation made by the government where fintech providers, they cannot sell you crypto, any type of crypto. And this closed the door for a lot of these fintech solutions. And I would say that from my friends that purchase USDC or USDT, now less than half continue to do that.
Is it a matter you just got to get more creative now? And you have to, or is there any method by which you can access in Argentina USDT or USDC, whether legal or otherwise?
There is a method which is essentially you just buy it over the counter, but it's quite funny. It's almost a logistical problem in Argentina because the bills are so many that if you want to buy $2,000 worth of stablecoin, whatever, right? With pesos, you need to have 2 backpacks.
Yeah, you need a wheelbarrow.
Yeah, no, it's absurd. Really, it's absurd. It's almost comical. But you need to carry kilograms of cash to an over-the-counter exchange, right, and sell it for 2,000 USDC.
What is the average income or salary in Argentina right now?
I would say,
in dollar terms. So
the this is something that populist governments love to do. So the statistic agency of Argentina is an intervene, meaning that they will always lie about the data. So it's hard to actually pinpoint these things. It's hard to pinpoint inflation. It's hard to pinpoint how much money supplies there is, and a lot of very important statistics of economics, because they are handpicked by the government. But I would say, as an average, Argentinians earn around 110,000 pesos per month, which is slightly less than $200.
$200,
give or take.
That's per month.
Unreal.
That's per month.
So that's the average income right now in Argentina.
I would say that's the average income, for
that would not sustain my lifestyle.
No.
But
so if you're a foreigner that's got US dollars, because I know we have some friends that have recently, moved from the US to Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
So how does this all impact them? Obviously they're making their money in US dollars and they're living in Argentina and spending it in, in a deflated currency or inflated currency.
Yeah, I mean, they just live the happiest life that they have ever seen, right? Because everything is so cheap if you earn in foreign currency. I'll give you some examples. A steak at a restaurant could cost you $2.30. A beer could cost you less than $1. Public transport is so absurdly cheap that it's like, I think nobody's paying it, actually. So it costs 45 pesos, which is 9 cents or something like that.
45 pesos, 90 cents. So people aren't
9 cents.
People aren't even paying for it, because it's like.
I mean, nobody checks if you're paying for it. I'm sure people do. Some people do pay for it, but I think nothing happens if you don't pay it, because it's understood as a common service infrastructure that is subsidized by the government. So it's like it doesn't really. So the train company makes more money off the subsidy of the government than what it does of the selling of the tickets, essentially. Yeah. So there are some very absurd things happening. What else can I tell you? What
have you seen from a societal impact, from a social impact? Have you seen
one thing that is very weird is that McDonald's is very expensive. I don't know. I don't know why, and I don't understand it. But it's quite expensive. I think McDonald's creates like an international set of prices, and maybe on every continent is worth the same. But a McDonald's combo could cost you like $8 here, which is a lot of money. And
they're probably still getting their soybeans from America, right?
Yeah. I don't know why, but
same,
McDonald's.
Yeah, same in India also, right? I mean, here McDonald's is more of a fast food place. And it's a place, if you want food really quickly, you wouldn't take a date there. Whereas in India, McDonald's is a high-end place. So you would go there on dates, and all the cool kids go there. The young people are going there. It's entirely different.
I've seen people taking like pictures of each other in McDonald's, which it's a little sad, But like, I mean, that's that.
To me, that's all the more. That's all.
It's like a celebration, It's like yeah. But well, I mean, regardless, come to Argentina. You guys are gonna have an amazing time.
So again, what has been the social impact, Mariano? Has there been any increase in violence, or like what's going on from that perspective?
So not in the city, not in the city of Buenos Aires, because I don't know. There must be some sort of like agreement between the police and the delinquents to not be in the city. I actually feel quite safe in the city, safer than other years. But outside the city, it's really, really chaotic. Like, it's very, very dangerous. You can get kidnapped. You can get all bad things happening to you. And Argentina is very, very concentrated in Buenos Aires, which is the main city. It's not like in the United States that nobody lives in the capital of the United States. Nobody lives in Washington, or just like government people live in Washington, right? More people live in New York or in California. Now, here, everyone lives in the capital city of Buenos Aires. I do, like my family do, and it's where everything is happening. If you have a little bit of money, you live in the capital city, and it's relatively safe. And outside that, you can really see the effects of of inflation and poverty and crime going through the roof because of poverty. But yeah, good news or bad news is that next week we have elections. We have presidential elections. These are the primary elections. I am actually a volunteer, and I'm very excited for this. I'm a volunteer to like supervise the elections, and there are two very distinctive parties. One, surprising out of nowhere, the Libertarian Party, that is essentially creating a movement similar to the one that Bukele created in El Salvador, where he says simply like, hey, everyone that steals should get jailed for life. We're going to create like mega jails, and the government will not intervene in the economy anymore. They will ban taxes. It will be like a Dubai city for them. And then you have the classical populist party that essentially wants to continue the cycle of subsidies and government intervention.
Interesting. Wow. So changes afoot potentially in Argentina. Like,
yeah,
I'm just wondering how much longer can people sustain these living conditions and these conditions?
I just want to say two quick things. So that's really the question, and on itself the problem of populism, because that right now the advantage of populism is that you essentially subsidize all these people with the essential items that they need to survive. If the government changes, right, of course the subsidy is paid for the people that actually work, but if the government changes, these people will lose all those things potentially, and there will be riots and all these things, but they have every incentive to just not change their votes, even if they recognize that the situation of Argentina is bad, because they do it for necessity, and that's like the trap of populism. But that's on the one hand. But on the other hand, I was reading, and I found it very funny. Myanmar is a country that right now is in the middle of a civil war. There is a military coup that essentially has like a guerrilla warfare inside it. So the governmental bonds of Myanmar have a worse rate than the governmental bonds of Argentina. So Argentina has a higher risk than Myanmar, which is a civil war. Like it's insane.
Unbelievable.
That is unbelievable.
You are paying right now. I mean, if I would have more guts, maybe I would buy some bonds. You are paying, I think, 15 cents on the dollar of the bonds.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. These are the things that occur with years and years and years of mismanaged economic policy, right? So, yeah, I feel really, really bad for all the Argentinians, all the Argentines living in that kind of economic. Just I can't even find the words for it. It's really, really unfortunate. Really, really sad.
So when are you going to get out of there, Mariano?
I don't know. We are the world championships in soccer, so like, what do I care if the government is bad with inflation?
And you make your money in crypto, so.
And I make my money in crypto. I mean, I
save like you eat down there. Yeah.
I save 90% or more of my salary. It's like
he's enjoying the best steak in the world for $2. Why would he?
I just really, really like meat. Also, I eat meat almost every day.
And the meat down there, I hear, is delicious. It's amazing.
It's very good. I eat meat and fish. That's basically my diet.
Wow. Steak for $2, man.
So the better question is, when are we going to get over there?
That's no kidding. That's actually, I was with Michael, like, why he doesn't need to leave. We need to go visit.
So, I mean, if you are coming here, you need to bring crisp $100 bills. If you bring this is more absurd. If you bring like older circulation bills, even if they are, of course, recognized by the government as real, they're worth less. Why? Because it presents like a risk of counterfeit, right? So if you don't bring like the newer circulation, it is more probable that they are fake and they pay less and less and less.
Wow, that's so fascinating.
Yeah, it's insane.
That is insane.
Really.
Wow. Good Lord. What an education on hyperinflation.
Yeah, seriously. Switching gears, I was wondering if any of you guys got any ZKitties, or if you heard of them even.
I heard it, but I didn't purchase.
No, they had their like launch like yesterday and today. And basically you get like a ZKitty or a few of them, and basically they have airdrop smart contracts that will like mine airdrops for you, and they also like have like Telegram bots, I guess, that give you more customizability over it. Yeah,
Did you purchase, Michael? How many did you
I picked up a few ZKitties just to try it out, see the automation, see if I can take advantage of any airdrops or if they do anything. But they did lower the supply during the launch because I guess they had changed expectations when they launched. This is basically the worst time to launch a project right now, I would say, in NFT land. So, yeah.
Did they sell out or?
Yeah, they did sell out their new batch. It was like 2,333, something like that. Yeah. But you know, do you guys think it's just the same as like a lot of these other airdrop bot programs, but like a little bit late? Or
I'd say Mariano has probably the best.
So I mean, I haven't participated on any similar ones, but I think it's a novel idea, the one of like creating an automated airdrop solution for people, where the investment of doing that is an NFT. So you later get like the distribution of it. I have seen other models where they sell you like software for you to do this like automated airdrop farming on your own, but you would have to delegate your private key of your wallet to that, and that's dangerous, right? So I like this idea more. Of course, it relies on trust because you need to trust them to do the actual farming, and you also need to trust them to distribute the airdrop when it happens. But I forgot really to purchase them. I would have maybe got one or two.
Yeah, they're still like around the mint price on the secondary market, so you could probably pick one up. They're super cheap, like 0.05.
Which chain are they on? Are they on OpenSea?
So it's actually pretty cool. They minted on every chain. So whatever chain you were on, you could mint these things, but they would automatically go to ZK Sync once you minted them. So ultimately, yeah, you can go on the marketplace that they have for ZK Sync. I forgot what it's called right now. It's the I'm gonna look for it right here. It's the Element Marketplace. Yeah, so you can go there, connect your ZK Sync, and grab a kitty.
Nice.
Yeah, it's my first time testing out like a airdrop bot. They've been doing a ton of marketing, these guys. I found them really early on, so I'm like, yeah, this is my first one. I ignored so many of them. And they also claim to like, you know, they say they're gonna go after all the future viable airdrops. So it's not just a one-off thing. They have plans for the future. So we'll see. Yeah.
Sick. Nice.
Yeah, interesting. Well, in other news, it looks like Michael Saylor was up to his usual shenanigans. I think he sold another $750 million of stock. I don't know how he keeps managing to find stock to sell for MicroStrategy. I feel like there's like how can he get any more, you know, operating cash flow, any more value out of his company in order to buy more Bitcoin? It feels like he's pulling it out of the couch cushions at this point. So yeah, they're presuming that he's gonna buy another $750 million worth of Bitcoin by selling that stock. So
he's trying to go full Bitcoin over time.
I thought he already had. Thought he already completely had. So I don't know. BJ, did you know anything about that?
Yeah, they were. I know that they were trying to kind of justify for being for raising more money to be able to buy Bitcoin, and there is also some potential competition that is coming. Right now, investors don't have direct exposure to Bitcoin, right? They can either get a synthetic exposure right through one of these ETFs, they can buy a mining company. By the way, mining companies have done phenomenally well this year. Nvidia has been the AI darling of this year. Nvidia is up almost 220%. Whereas if you look at some of these Bitcoin mining stocks, right, like Riot is up almost 540%. Hut 8 is up almost like 300%. So the mining stocks have done really well. And say it again.
Except for Core Scientific.
Yeah. Right? No, I think Core Scientific, the ones that survived, right? Core Scientific, they declared bankruptcy. So the ones that are still trading have done well, but it still doesn't justify, Bitcoin, I think, needs to be close to around 200K or so to justify Riot's valuation. And we don't know what's going to happen with the halvening, because every halvening, the reward gets cut in half, right? But, you still have to have the hash power to produce the same amount of reward unless the price doubles. So there are there are multiple factors that are acting against it. Specifically in terms of MicroStrategy's case, they are making a case that they are a better vehicle than compared to buying any of the ETFs, right? Because when one of the ETFs come into play, they have some of the money which is in MicroStrategy stock might get reallocated for that, and the ETFs are inevitable in my mind. It is going to happen. We don't know when, and it might happen within the next year or so. It might take like 2 or 3 years. We have 7 Bitcoin spot ETFs that are lining up in the. They have already filed. BlackRock being one of them, ARK Invest being another one of them. So that is potential competition for MicroStrategy, that investors might shift their money because they are more interested in Bitcoin, and right now they don't have a way to get exposure, so they're trying to get exposure through MicroStrategy. But let's see if we can raise that 750 million. That will give an indication of investor appetite.
Well, I agree with you, for one, on the whole, the ETF getting approved. I think it's a foregone conclusion. Why? Because BlackRock was the one that filed. And BlackRock, I feel, is the spoiled little kid that always gets what they want on their Christmas list every year. So it's like, I mean, they've got enough political. They're what did I hear the other day, that they control $10 trillion worth of value of assets under management. I mean, you pretty much control 70-80% of Fortune 500, S&P 500 corporate America by being able to essentially move your weight around in those boardrooms. So when BlackRock wants something, they get it. And so the fact that they're the ones that file, it's a foregone conclusion. It's going to get approved.
Yeah, I mean, be careful though, because I heard recently that BlackRock was being investigated. I don't remember by which governmental agencies, for Chinese funding. Essentially, they were doing something on the Chinese market. Yeah,
well, they need to be investigated. I mean, any behemoth that has $10 trillion. I mean, what do we would call that a monopoly in any other industry. So the fact that they have that much power is obscene. So, I mean, yeah, great. Come into the crypto space and pump all of our bags. That's great. But then, be careful what you wish for, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, but in MicroStrategy's case, it also takes someone who's convinced with the vision of what is possible with Bitcoin, and to have an unwavering belief regardless of what happens in the market. Michael Saylor has done a great job with that, right? They own 150,000 Bitcoins or so, worth about $4.5 billion at today's price. So they still have done well with their investment, and this is another 750 million. If they end up raising this money, it'll again go into purchasing potentially Bitcoin. So I haven't looked at their balance sheet to see how well capitalized they are. But if you have $4.5 billion of asset and you need to raise another 70 million, might work, depends on how their balance sheet is structured.
Interesting. Well, that'll be another thing for us to just continue to monitor. So yeah, exciting stuff. The world of crypto, as the world turns. My mom used to watch that thing, soap opera every day. So it's very much like the world of crypto, as the world turns, as the crypto world turns. So another exciting week in the books.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I think unless there's anything else, you guys would like any parting comments to share before we put a bow on it?
So parting comment is, Dominic, you begin by saying it doesn't, for bear market, so many things have happened in the crypto space.
Yeah.
I would say that we are at the bottom. We are close to the bottom. We can never aim. We can never correctly pinpoint this is the absolute bottom. But I do believe that we are close to the bottom, maybe within maybe a month or so. And we have seen this over and over again, where in which there is a lull, people lose interest in it, and then before they know it, all the prices of these assets are up, 100, 200, 300%. So I would not, or I would be mindful about using the word whether we are still in a bear market. I think we are in the early stages of the bull market.
Do you think that even if the United States enters a recession and all the things that are waiting to happen in the other market?
Yeah, so that's the other, the macro condition. It's pressing the brake. The Federal Reserve, it's a huge oil tanker. They did the steepest raise in interest rate, 5,000% in the shortest amount of time ever in history. So it's moving the oil tanker, but then the ship doesn't move as quickly. It takes, maybe 8, 9, 10 months for the results to be felt in the economy. And we are going to feel that effect. That's on one side. And then on the other side, you have all this innovation that's happening in the market. So the car is pressing both the accelerator and brakes at the same time. And we don't know what's going to happen. One of it is going to slip, and both are being pressed real hard, accelerator and brakes at the same time in the crypto market. So we'll see what happens.
It's interesting. Let me ask a follow-up to that. So do you see a dislocation in the market where in which you have deteriorating macro conditions, right? So maybe it's that Chairman Powell actually pauses. Maybe he even starts lowering, but you have unemployment starting to rise, because up until now, we really haven't had that. Speaking of, we had unemployment numbers today, but you have unemployment starting to rise. You have interest rates starting to lower, and you've got a crypto market that is literally starting to go bananas. Do you see that as a viable, I guess, economic landscape?
So these controls are more for a big oil tanker, not for a race car. So the impact, like the Federal Reserve is raising interest rate, hoping that unemployment will also go up, but unemployment has been staying steady, right? So you're going to raise interest rate, and the cost of borrowing for businesses increases, which is going to end up resulting in businesses laying off people. But that's not what we are seeing in the numbers at all. So in some ways, I think people are kind of scratching their heads. Even the Federal Reserve, I think it's kind of looking at it and going, hey, we are raising interest rate. How come the unemployment side of things is not moving at all? And the inflation is kind of looks like, we are getting it into control. But we'll have to see around unemployment also.
Bingo. Got it. Thank you. Appreciate that. Michael, any parting thoughts, my friend?
I would just say patience pays off.
All right.
That's about
Very
it.
succinct. A man of brevity. I like it. Mariano.
I think it was, I don't remember which famous investor said that making money in the markets, it's about moving the money from the impatience to the patience, and that's it.
I think that's a great way to articulate it. there are those axioms or those idioms, commonplace in the investor lexicon, but I like that one specifically, and it makes a lot of sense, right? In fact, it's so funny. And my parting shot is that I've gotten some texts from some people who I met during the bull market of previous, BJ, the bull market of previous, actually at some conferences, and they're largely out of the space right now. And I reminded them how big of a poor decision or a mistake that is, and that they still have an opportunity to really double down into investing some time, if nothing else, or some intention, like watching this podcast and just getting reinvigorated into the space, because the actual, like VJ said, the technology does not stop, the innovation does not stop. And I remember actually Kobe said this on a podcast that he had on Upload Link. The biggest mistake, and he said this during a bull market for whatever it's worth, but the biggest mistake most people make in this industry is that they leave during the bear market. They either leave physically or they leave mentally, or they leave both, but they leave and they take their attention off of this industry. And so they're not present to the new narrative that emerges that causes the bull run to start. They're not present, and they're not allocated. So they may own some dinosaur coins, or they may have just left everything to fall by the wayside, but they're not present to what's going on in this space. And so, we've seen, plenty of people who have made that mistake, and don't be one of them. So that will be my parting shot for today, and wrapping up episode 5 of the Bitbrain podcast.
Gotta keep showing up every single day. That's all.
Amen,
it is.
baby. Amen.
Yeah. And one more thing. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, baby.